At 6 in the morning, with freezing water biting through my waders and my little aluminum boat nudging the dock like a dog begging for breakfast, the HOA president, Margaret Maggie Thornfield, a woman who weaponized perfume like tear gas, stormed down the planks screaming, "Arrest him!" And her deputy, a guy who looked like he'd failed out of both training and common sense, fumbled with the cuffs while 15 neighbors sipped coffee and filmed from their decks, gulls squawking as if they'd been paid for sound effects, and my breath puffed out like smoke while I said calmly, "Ma'am, this is my property." But Maggie jabbed her finger at me like it was a sword and shrieked, "Trespasser," before the cuffs clicked shut. Now here's the twist I love. 10 minutes later, I owned her precious marina, but that punchline only makes sense once you hear the beginning, so let me rewind. My name's Jake Morrison, electrician by trade, widower by cruel timing, and 15 years ago my wife Sarah and I bought 12 acres around this lake as our forever home, sanding the dock together until it shined like warm bread, mornings filled with loon calls and lavender shampoo drifting from her hair, and after cancer took her, that dock became my church, the lake my therapy, and every dawn with my German Shepherd Rex was the only reason grief didn't drown me. Then along came Maggie, new HOA president, BMW driver, bylaw addict, the type who treats community rules like horoscopes, reading only what suits her, and suddenly violation letters multiplied, fines for lights, dogs, even gnomes. So I kept quiet, paid early, trimmed hedges, because bullies burn out, or so I thought, until her pink-perfumed letter arrived slapping me with a $500 fine for unauthorized watercraft, and claiming my dock was now HOA property, and when I called her she froze me out, claiming the HOA supersedes individual rights, which was funny considering my dock was built before the HOA even existed. Next came an emergency meeting where she and her lawyer nephew Curtis unveiled a sketchy survey saying my dock invaded HOA water, but I pulled out my original deed and a 2009 survey. Thank you, Sarah, for keeping every scrap of paper, and Curtis's face drained like a man watching his Jeep collapse, while Maggie sputtered that boundaries evolve. Until Mrs. Victoria, my neighbor since the lake was a doodle on a napkin, stood up and told the room flat out that my dock predated everything and more neighbors. Nodded, but Maggie banged her gavel, muttered about liability, and gave me 30 days. Then her out-of-work son-in-law Derek showed up in a rental security uniform, patrolling my dock like it was Area 51, clipboard in hand, parking his truck at sunrise as if cosplay gave him authority. But while he played mall cop, I became a regular at the county recorder's office, where Dolores, the clerk who'd been filing documents longer than Maggie had been buying perfume, handed me proof that Maggie's own election was invalid. No proper notices, signatures not notarized. Basically, she was queen of nothing, and that wasn't all. Neighbors whispered that Maggie was planning to buy Hendricks Marina with $50,000 from the HOA's emergency fund to lock down all access. But Dolores uncovered the real gem. The marina's lease had expired, taxes unpaid for 2 years, and it was heading to county auction for a measly $12,347. So while Maggie was scheming to take over the lake, I lined up a certified check at the bank, got lawyer Helen Vasquez on my side, a woman who collects rogue HOAs like trophies, and built my case with neighbors who brought old photos, clippings, and memories proving the covenant guaranteed lake access forever. Friday morning came, county auction room, 20 folding chairs, Commissioner Wells reading the lot, silence heavy as stone, and when I raised my hand the gavel fell. Sold, marina mine, just like that. And 10 minutes later, when Maggie showed up at the dock, trying to play sheriff, I reminded her that now she was trespassing on my property, which was sweeter than any fine she ever mailed. Of course she didn't quit. She tried editing recordings of our conversations, staging fake safety inspections with Derek, even running sock puppet Facebook accounts named Concerned Homeowner 47 to smear me as unstable, but neighbors weren't fools. Victoria called out the clipped audio as a lie with scissors. Tom traced the fake accounts back to Maggie's own house. And when she packed an urgent safety meeting with 60 people and a reporter ready to accuse me of holding the lake hostage, I walked to the front and dropped everything on the table. The covenant, the deed, the invalid election, receipts of her attempt to misuse funds, plus a clean, unedited recording of our dock conversation. The room flipped. The reporter's pen flew, the sheriff served her with a cease and desist, and Curtis gathered his papers like a magician whose rabbit died. Wow. Maggie sputtered until her allies stared at the floor. By Monday, she resigned in an email blaming community politics. Derek found work 2 towns away where clipboards are quieter. Curtis slunk back to contracts, and the HOA held a real election, cutting violations by 70% because you can't find your way into community. As for me, I kept Bill Hendricks on as marina manager, promoted Tommy the dockhand, opened access fairly to all, property values rose 15%, and then I started the Sarah Morrison Memorial Fishing Program, Saturday sunrises with 25 kids learning knots, casting, respect for the lake, with Mrs. Victoria teaching history, county rangers sharing ecology, Rex the dog soaking up hugs, and neighbors grilling by the water as if fines had never existed. And now when I launch at dawn, talking to Sarah through the mist, I tell her about kids catching their first fish, couples meeting at safety classes, even critics sitting quietly and remembering they were children once, and the lesson is clear. Bullies live on theater, but paper and patience outlast them. So if your HOA ever thinks a lake is a brand instead of a covenant, don't just fight. Outsmart them, outlast them, and if you can, buy the marina, because nothing silences a gavel like the sound of loons at sunrise and neighbors laughing by the dock.